Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a wild ride. We've got Karen, queen of the Hoa in waiting, scrubbing away a Black Lives Matter message like it's a stubborn stain on her pristine white picket fence. Meanwhile, Malik and Amani, the newly minted homeowners, are bursting with joy. Well, Amani is. Malik's a little stressed about that commute, but hey, new house. Then there's Karen, fake smiling her way through a neighborly greeting, while secretly plotting something. And get this, Jan, bless her heart, realizes the neighborhood just got its first black residents. She's so thrilled about the diversity, she might just invite them to the Hoa. Talk about a rollercoaster of suburban drama. Woman named Karen being an Hoa member is quite fitting as they continue to unpack their things. Malik comments that moving to a white neighborhood named after a Confederate soldier might not have been the best idea. Amani tells Malik she plans to petition the Hoa to change the neighborhood's name. She explains that change won't happen unless they take action too. Malik can't argue with her reasoning and tries to get her to join him in bed because she ovulating, but their moment is interrupted by the sound of drilling outside. When they look out the window, they see Karen installing cameras on the side of her house. Karen wastes no time in securing her home cause you definitely know what she's thinking about. Amani says that's odd because there's pretty much zero crime in the neighborhood. When she did her research the next morning, Amani wishes Malik a good day at work as he heads out to his car. Just as he's about to get in, Karen walks over to say hello. Malik offers Karen a handshake, but she refuses, saying she doesn't shake hands since she's a germaphobe. Has they ever heard of a fist bump? He mentions no, saying her. Picture this. Cameras go up, and Karen, bless her heart, immediately thinks she's being targeted. She cries, broke ass, tries to giggle it off, but Malik's not buying it. Then, bam, Hoa handbook lecture on trash can etiquette. Move your white trash, she huffs. Lunch with Beth follows, brother Mike shows up, and Beth's all, girl, he's fine. He could read me my Miranda rights anytime. Karen's new neighbors? Black. Beth's eyes practically bulge out of her head when Karen mentions the trash cans. And the piece de resistance? Black guys nearby chuckle, and Karen, ever the peacemaker, strides over, threatening to call the manager. Classic Karen. Laugh again. She marches past them to find the manager. Shockingly, the manager actually kicks the men out, causing them to get pissed at Karen through the window. I just know that restaurant's favorite seasoning is mayonnaise. When Malik gets home from work, he sits in his car, smokes some salad, and listens to music to unwind. Karen suddenly appears and knocks on his window because she can't mind her own business. When he rolls it down, she points out that she knows his wife doesn't know he's smoking weed. She tells him she'd prefer if he smoked somewhere else so her kids wouldn't see you look like you smoke meth with a face like that. Then she casually asks him why he and Amani chose to move into this neighborhood. Malik explains to Karen that they moved to be closer to the city. Karen responds by saying they're infiltrating suburban neighborhoods. She asks him what he does for a living, and Malik tells her he runs a community center. Karen says she's proud of his work, and when Malik asks what she does, she explains she's a stay-at-home mom and that her husband recently passed away. I just knew that was job with how much time she got. Whoa. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a roller coaster. Karen, bless her nosy heart, starts grilling Amani, who's clearly got way more important things to do than answer a million questions. Turns out, Amani's a huge blogger, the breadwinner, the pants wearer, the queen bee. Meanwhile, Malik's sporting a wig that's, well, let's just say it needs a stylist. He hits the cologne hard, and Amani immediately suspects his green activities, but he swears he's innocent. Dinner? Forget about it. Amani's too busy ruling the blogosphere. Malik's left with an apple. Then the bombshell, they have a Karen for a neighbor. Amani's practically rolling on the floor laughing. Malik groans about their less than pleasant chats, but Amani's all, meh, we'll keep an eye on her. And then, cue the dramatic music, they head to their room, leaving poor Kyle peeking from his window, totally creeped out. Karen, ever vigilant, catches Kyle's leering and sends him packing. This neighborly drama is epic. Whoa. Immediately, she's glued to the window, a total flustered mess, and maybe a little intrigued. She's a window peeping ninja until Sarah yanks her back to reality. Later, Malik and Oman hear a bang. Grab the gun, investigate. It's just a trash raiding dog. Hilarious. Until they spot Karen's camera, trained directly on their bedroom. Popcorn in hand, she's watching everything. This is seriously creepy. Major Lakeview Terrace vibes, right? The next night, Imani, armed with a peace offering, a pecan pie, should have gone pumpkin, honey. Confronts Karen. Camera issue addressed? Nope. Karen just shuts the door, tosses the pie, and the whole thing feels incredibly awkward and super illegal. Whoa, so, this Karen, total basic white girl, gets way too friendly with Malik. Imani and Malik, bless their hearts, even put up curtains because of her. Then, bam, Karen's all over Malik, even after Amani's hilarious, pasty meth head comment. Malik, sworn to Imani, plays ball with Kyle, and suddenly, creepy Karen's all smiles and arm rubbing. Next thing you know, antifreeze spill leads to a forced entry into her house. And get this, a room full of cameras spying on Malik's place. Plus, a disturbing collection of, let's just say, uncomfortable historical artifacts. Malik's outer there, fast. But this is one freaky situation that demands immediate action. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a roller coaster. Amani and Malik install security cameras, smart move, which somehow attracts the attention of Karen. At the Hoa meeting, she pushes $100 Hoa fee increase. Criminal. Then, get this, she accuses Amani of indecent exposure because her son saw something, claims Malik's smoking salad, and unleashes a torrent of racist nonsense about black babies and the neighborhood going downhill. Thankfully, the others aren't buying it. Later, Curry tries a different tactic, backhandedly complimenting their cool names. Ouch. Amani's having none of it, mentioning her housewarming party. Guess who invited herself? Yep, Curry shows up with a fruit cake, of course it has raisins. And then, the piece de resistance, Karen, with a tone-deaf, whitey, comment, makes a play for Amani in the kitchen. Buckle up, buttercup, it's going to be a wild ride. Picture this, Curry, slaving away in the kitchen. Suddenly, bam, the guy she got booted from that restaurant earlier shows up. The tension, thicker than a Mississippi mud pie. Then, Karen joins the party, hears whispers of Black Lives Matter, and spouts, All Lives Matter. Cue the dramatic eye rolls. She unleashes a torrent of racist nonsense. Seriously, the woman needs a thesaurus, it's getting repetitive. Some brave souls try to school her on oppression, but Karen's brilliant response? Go back to Africa. That's when Malik and Amani, fed up to here with her raisin potato salad-esque attitude, send her packing. I'm not racist. Karen cries. If you're not a racist, Amani retorts, then I'm a skinny, petite unicorn. Later, Malik and Amani hash it out, a heated debate about Karen, exploding into a deeper conversation about their issues. Amani's not ready for kids? Financial woes, maybe? Malik's feeling emasculated. Poor guy takes a long, smoky walk to cool off, only to bump into Karen, who suggests they both just move on. The drama. It's a roller coaster, I tell ya. Oh honey, this is rich. Karen, bless her heart, tries to apologize for being a raging racist, but then just keeps on truckin' with the offensive comments. Meanwhile, she's hitting on Malik. Like, girl, priorities. I swear, I thought she was gonna propose some seriously twisted race play. Then, the trash can incident. Knocks it over like a toddler throwing a tantrum, classic Karen move. Amani's all, stray dogs, while Sarah's casually dropping the bomb that Karen's a full-blown, anti-black, anti-Amani bigot. And the cherry on top? Karen demanding IDs from a group of guys? This woman is a walking, talking sitcom of chaotic evil. Tarun Manning's performance is chef's kiss. I'm side-eyeing Karen so hard, my neck is gonna crack. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a wild ride. Curry, queen of the Karen calls, dials Mike, screaming about some guys, scaring her. Turns out, Mike's just as big a racist as she is. He arrests all three guys, despite his poor, bewildered rookie partner's protests. Imani, our ever-vigilant neighbor, films the whole chaotic spectacle. Later, she's telling Malik, honey, let's sell this house. I can't live next to that body odor. Malik's all, we're not running, but Amani's had enough of the stench and the drama. Meanwhile, Karen's peering through their window, like a creepy voyeur at dinner. Then, she lies to Mike, claiming the arrested guys were casing the neighborhood. But the best part? One of those arrested guys is the son of a civil rights attorney. Karen's whole reign of terror is over. The lawsuit hits the police and the Hoa like a ton of bricks. She even tries to rope Jan into her mess, but Jan's inner Asian finally unleashes its awesome power of refusal. Karen storms off, defeated and smelling faintly of, well, you know. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a roller coaster. Amani's glued to the TV, watching a lawsuit unfold, a lawsuit that sends Karen into a full-blown bathroom meltdown. Meanwhile, a civil rights attorney is giving Officer Mike Y, a man with a battery of, well, battery charges, the stink eye. Across town, Malik's chilling with a friend, completely unaware that Karen's watching his every move and dialing someone. Suddenly, Mike ambushes Malik, claiming a drug tip, planting evidence like a pro. At the precinct, a rookie cop, Hill, wants to spill the beans, but Mike, a member of the ultra-secretive and seriously shady Triple K Society, silences him with a threat. The next morning, Amani bails Malik out and goes online with their story. But, twist, her car alarm screams, and there's Karen, claiming she wants to make amends. Turns out, this whole thing boils down to a childhood grudge and a tale of gentrification gone wrong. Whoa, this neighborhood's about to explode. Karen, the queen of entitled, tells Amani, get outta here. But Amani's like, nope, we're staying. Karen storms off, but the drama's just heating up. The next day, Malik and Amani are meeting with Charles, a civil rights attorney, a total boss. Guess who's lurking in the parking lot? Karen, ratting them out to her buddy Mike. Turns out, Karen's a walking, talking, racist time bomb, fired from teaching for spewing hate, and her prejudice went nuclear after her husband's death. Oh, and guess what? Amani sent Karen a video of her own terrible behavior. Karma's a dish best served cold. Charles agrees to take their case. That night, bam, a knock on the door. It's Mike, armed with a search warrant, looking for weapons, and finding Malik's gun. Arrest. But twist alert, Amani calls Charles, who discovers Malik was never officially booked. Meanwhile, Karen pulls a full-on power outage and then bursts into the house, with a gun. Amani, however, is wielding something even more awesome, a sword. She takes Karen down a peg, before Karen lets off a wild shot. Mike hears the commotion. Oh boy, this is going to be epic. Shots fired. Chaos erupts. Karen's house is under siege, and she's hunting Amani, only to be ambushed. A head kraken, ground pound and brawl ensues. Just as Karen gets the upper hand, Mike arrives, but instead of helping, he cooks up a brilliant, and utterly insane, plan to frame Amani. Bang! Amani is shot, but somehow survives. Then Officer Hill bursts in, yelling for Karen to drop her gun. Mike, instead of backing down, shoots Hill. But Hill returns fire, and bam, Mike's down. Karen's about to finish Hill off, but Amani snatches Mike's gun and kapow! Karen's history. Don't mess with Amani and Malik, folks. Seriously, don't. The only good thing about this whole crazy movie? Officer Hill's acting. The aftermath? A lawsuit, a new Hoa president, Amani, a neighborhood name change, and a bun in the oven. Amani's pregnant. What did you think of this dumpster fire? IMDb seems to agree. It's been downvoted into oblivion.